Hey, everybody. So I'm just going to open my mouth and articulate some things that I think are on everyone's minds right now. If you're like me, your heart probably broke at some of the news that came out this week. I think George Floyd is probably the most nauseating one, but there have been a series of other similar events against African American citizens, and there's quite a bit of outrage right now. So, what I wanted to do today was share perhaps a different lens that you may not have considered about what's going on. So, I think most of my community, you out there, most everyone wants these horrible things to stop. There's often an outrage. Why do these things keep occurring? There's a lot of hopes and prayers. There's this must stop. Haters going to hate. We've got to banish the hate. And it's coming from a good place. But today I want to give you some background on what I see is really why these things keep happening. Because until people understand why these things keep happening, it's just going to keep happening. No matter how much love and light, no matter how much you're in your heart, most people still tend to view what's going on when it's, whether it's George Floyd or some of these other horrible things, as individual behaviors. Like that was one person who was a little off in their head or a little bit racist or whatever. I'm a good person. I would never do that. So if you look at these series of events that keep happening, right, there's been outrage over and over. It's because people, white Americans, still tend to look at this as an exception. It was one bad apple, one person who was hating, and so my goal today is to expand the aperture in your mind of why this keeps happening and why people of color see these kinds of things very differently. Because white folks are not privy. It's like you don't know what you don't know. First, are you open to the possibility that when you are in your heart and you're wanting to be a good person and you want everyone to be happy and healthy, there's certain things that make it worse, that you may be thinking from a really well-intentioned place that don't help. So if you say any of these things, it's all right. You didn't know, but this will educate you on why it's actually just contributing to more of these problems, because there's going to be another one, right? People have been outraged for a while. Oh, now it's on video. A lot of people are saying this has always been happening. You just didn't believe it because no one happened to be there with a phone to record it. So it's good. We're being enlightened. Please avoid saying things like, I see no color. I love everyone. If we could all get along, we need to focus on love and light and be in our hearts and let go of the hate. Hate is bad. Stop. That is probably not going to make anyone feel any better. It'll make you feel better. But it's exactly part of the problem. Because when you say, I see no color, that's the problem. You're not noticing what's going on for millions of people right around you, right underneath your nose, because you're not subject to what they're subjected to. I've talked about this before. There are a lot of people around you that have experiences you never have to worry about. It never even crosses your mind. So when you say things like, you see no color, notice, does that really make white people feel better? It'll make you feel better. It'll make other white people around you feel better because you're a good person. You meant well. But it tells anyone non-white, you don't see what's happening. You either don't want to know or you don't believe it. And after a while, people just stop talking about it because they're so exhausted in trying to explain to you what's going on. So whatever you do, when you finish this broadcast, try to not say that anymore, that you see no color. That's part of the problem. Because the reality is, oh, hey, Leslie Ann, that these things drastically impact people's life experiences. I know it's hard for you to believe, but just if we're going to get anywhere in this country, we cannot be sitting in love and light all the time and hoping that I'm a good person. That wouldn't happen to me. Yes, it probably would. And it's not through any of your fault. You see, we've got to get out of this mindset that this is all an individual thing. That individual was hating that day, or that, maybe there was a misunderstanding between that black person and that white person. I would never do that. See if you can open the aperture of your mind that if these things keep happening, there's something bigger going on than just a bad apple here, a bad apple there. And this is really hard for white people to hold, because it would be a lot easier to think it's just a few people, right? Making us all look bad. We're all really good people. Actually, it's the whole apparatus, because there are some structural things that white people have never had to deal with in employment, healthcare, voting rights, all these things that have nothing to do with individual, how nice I am. But they drastically impact, if you have to worry about being pulled over for just driving or shot at standing in your own yard. The white narrative is still, it was that one situation. But look how many there are, right? That didn't just happen in a vacuum. It wasn't like these people were born bad or hating. So I want to just point out some things today. If you're listening, if you really want to be part of the solution, I'm glad you're sending love and light. I'm glad you care, but avoid saying these things, because these are things that white people say to sort of deflect, to make it less difficult to sit. These are hard problems. They've been with us forever, hundreds of years. Nobody believed it. No one had a cell phone around. People got away with it. Oh, now what's already been happening gets documented, and there's still a sense of discounting, right? And frankly, I think a lot of African American, they're tired of trying to explain. No one listens. No one believes. I'm just going to shut up because you can't handle the truth. You get mad. Oh, don't talk. So here's some things. I call these spiritual bypass. And it's a way to sort of minimize someone else's pain in a way that borrows on spiritual truism. So things like, well, we create our reality, right? So if you think about racist things, you're just going to make that happen. So don't think about it. Meanwhile, people don't have equal housing, employment, healthcare, but let's not think about it. That's called spiritual bypassing. Another one is focus on what you want. Why is everyone talking about this George Floyd thing? That's negative. We don't get anywhere by focusing on that, right? Let's focus on what we want. People who are affected are saying, no justice, no peace. And white people want to just, let's let bygones be bygones another 50, 100 years. Can you feel like this spiritual bypassing is contributing to a lot of stress? I see it in my office. It's well-intentioned, but it's getting us nowhere. So if you really want to be part of the solution, I wish you love, and I hope happiness, love and light to the families. Just pray about it and let God do the rest. Talking about racism is low vibe. I'm a high vibe person, Or here's one for you. Well, if someone is not happy living in a underprivileged area, why don't they move? Why don't they focus on what they want and manifest a better life? I had a spiritual teacher tell me that, seriously. And I just went, oh my. This is known in the POC, people of color community, as white bypassing. Because if you really had to get down and dirty into what's been going on for a long time, it would make you really uncomfortable, right? And it's easier to jump to these fluffy things than to realize, gosh, I have been part of this. I've actually benefited. And this is not personal. Okay. Yes. Oh, Leslie Ann, I know you're part of the new community. Good on you. We need everybody on board. Oh, this is another one. The heart knows beyond color, beyond race. Don't be a victim. Oh, that was 100 years ago. Everybody's being a victim. I wasn't there. I didn't do any of it. I'm a good person. People feel like they're being blamed personally. They take this issue and it becomes all about them personally. It's like there's a shame. Like, you're calling me a bad person, but I didn't have slaves. And I'm like, oh, sweetie, no one said you did. But this knee-jerk reaction becomes what's known as white-centered. You're hurting my feelings. You're making me feel bad. To talk about something that's hard. No one was directly accusing you. People are telling you, this has been my life experience. I get pulled over, I get denied a loan, I don't get hired, I get, a lot of social microaggressions. And it's difficult. If you've never been through that, it's easier to reach for, focus on what you want, love and light, right? Oh, that's negative. You need to let that go. That's all what's known as spiritual bypassing. That's why a lot of people just stop talking about it. Because spiritual bypassing never changed anything. It doesn't change laws. It doesn't hold people accountable. That's why I think people are starting to see this with gun violence. Another one, school shooting, 20 kids died. Well, I'm going to send love and light. And we have another one, and another one, and another one, right? There's nothing wrong with love and light. But if you think that's the only thing that will change things, I'm here to suggest some other alternatives. So it's a way of recognizing that if you are white, you've enjoyed a certain level of privilege. This is nothing to be ashamed of. It's not your fault. But it behooves you to actually notice and go, wow, I've actually benefited. My house is worth more than the house on the south side because people don't want to live there. So it affects property values. It affects who can qualify for a loan. It affects healthcare access. It's just not just, I see no color. Can we all agree that people are on an uneven playing field? It's simple, compassion. Yes, it is, and it's more than that. I agree, Leslie Ann, it's also structural in terms of, like if people are confused about the difference. I got in a discussion with someone the other day who was trying to understand and was speaking to an African-American man who got very angry because this woman was trying to say, I'm one of the good ones. But I think that Black people, it's reverse racism. Reverse racism. There is a difference between bigotry and racism. Bigotry, anybody can be bigoted against anyone else. It's rampant. Everybody. Racism has to do with who has the power. Who is the one pulling folks over? What is the makeup of the jury? What is the makeup of who's writing the articles on the media to publish articles that have an unconscious bias about what's going on? Everyone's got bias, but when it's cumulative and it has power over sentencing guidelines, all these things, that's when you see a systematic result. Bigotry, anyone can be bigoted. So avoid the word reverse racism because the oppressed group doesn't have the power to do that back to you. They can be nasty to you. They can hurt your feelings. They can be bigoted. But that's not the same as racism. So when white people say it's reverse racism, they don't really know what they're talking about. So I'm just educating you in terms of how people of color see this problem, that they know. That's why they stop talking about it half the time. It's so exhausting. The daily little microaggressions that they experience. It's hard. And this goes across the board. Compassion, referring to the personal reflection, compassion, and empathy, absolutely. And it needs to be translated into action. And this is where, the rubber meets the road, and that, gosh, And be curious, right? It's all about power. It really is. Folks, this has nothing to do with love and light. I wish it was that simple. If love and light could solve all problems, we wouldn't have half of these. We are good people, but fish do not know they are wet. If you are white, you have no idea. You just don't. It's been built into the education system, everything. You have no idea. And so when something comes up that you're not familiar with, I'm not one of those. No one said you were, but you benefit. So have a think, try to reduce the knee-jerk reaction and listen. And if it doesn't come across palatable, so that doesn't hurt your feelings, see if you can just stay with it, because it's not about you personally, but you will feel it that way. I'm not one of those people. I'm the good guy. And then if whoever's speaking probably goes like this, because these are difficult conversations. Be curious. I know people who have broken off friendships because they just couldn't handle this conversation. We don't share the same values. I'm like, do you have a sense of why that person felt that way? Have the patience to think that this is more complex than just you. Okay? Just work harder. Another one. Well, things are tough all over. I'm white and I'm poor. Can you see how it's a way of dismissing something? You may be white and you may be poor, but that's not the same as what we're talking about. So there's a tendency to center everything around the white speaker. That's not how I see the world. And people of color just go, oh my God, we never said it was. But you're not able to listen to the difference between a black poor person and a white poor person. You assume false equivalency. And sometimes there's a sense of we're bonded, right? I'm poor too. These are all the things that go through people's heads, okay? So, another one is, these conversations get heated and someone's feelings get hurt. Stop talking down at me. I don't like that tone you're using with me. That will make people go, oh, because this is a very difficult topic. If you want it nice and palatable, because it's going to rock your world, your view of what you think is real, of how you think this country works is going to be shook a bit. And you're starting to see it. It's not easy. It's not easy for anyone on any side. I am privy to multiple points of view because of what I do and my personal experience. Do you have the curiosity to listen? Right? Or white person, stop attacking me. I'm one of the good people. That'll make someone go, oh, again, it's centering everything around me. I'm a good person. No one ever said you weren't. But we're trying to describe a phenomena to you that you have no experience in directly, but you benefit from. And if this isn't addressed, you're going to have more and more and more of these problems. Social unrest, violence, and each time I can tell this outrage, this shock. People of color say, what'd you expect? It's the same as it ever was. And white people are outraged because until there was proof, nobody wanted to believe it, right? And then it becomes that individual officer. They're not looking at subconscious bias and how, the assumptions about people. The Amy Cooper or whatever the name, lady in the park, she knew darn well what she was doing when she called the cops on this guy who told her to just put her dog on a leash. She knew what she was doing. She's working it. Because she knows that if she says, hey, there's an African-American man here and he's scaring me, she's working it. You cannot tell me that people don't know they have privilege until they're busted. And now I'm so sorry, I'm not a racist, right? If you weren't a racist, you wouldn't have done that. Anyway, here's another one. Not all white people, right? I'm one of the good ones. Yeah, all white people in different levels of awareness, because not all white meaning white people benefit. You might be one of the few that's starting to say, hey, this isn't right. But what typically happens is in these conversations, it all gets spun back. It's called white centering. I want to talk to you about race. You hurt my feelings. And I'm going to say, not all white people. It's instinctive because there's a certain shame in this topic. Instead of going, yeah, I guess you might have a point there. And not taking it personally, like you're attacking me, which is what happens. We have no endurance to have these conversations. So this, whatever happened, is going to keep happening. I just guarantee it. There's no meaningful change. Just a lot of people feeling bad about it. The only way this is going to change is when people look at how they've benefited and how you can demand structural change with your voice. You know, will the guy get off? Oh, he's an officer, white juries tend to really favor the police. The guy will probably get off. Or a very light sentence. He felt his life was threatened. That's really the only standard that the police use when they kill someone. If you felt your life was endangered and you say that in court, you're good. For an officer, is that really fair? To white majority, yes, because there's been a bias against. Anyway, so, oh my God, I gotta go. I've got to jump on a call. False equivalency, yeah. You know, things are tough all over. It's what people say to try to, we're on the same level, right? Like, I understand what it's like to be Black. Frankly, folks, I never say that. That was insulting. Don't do it. Just don't even try to go there. You can say something more like, gosh, I imagine it's difficult. I can't even pretend to know, but I'll listen. I want to hear more. That is useful. But saying, oh yeah, things are tough all over and I'm poor too. You and me are the same. The system works against us. It's called false equivalency. Or, you know, if one Black person kills a white person, that's the same equivalent as a white person killing a Black person. It's all the same, right? Not really. Of course, lives are equal. But do you have the stamina to look at what's the undercurrent of what's going on? Or is there a tendency to just, they're the same. People hate. What are you going to do? There's badness everywhere, right? Without looking at what's happening on a deeper level. So there's pain everywhere, and there are different flavors of pain. Let's not all blend them in a pot and assume that everybody's the same. Just stop doing that. It's false equivalency, it's minimizing, and you're going to miss out on what I think the biggest spiritual challenge facing the country and the world is grappling with this history. Until it's really embraced, that energy, where do you suppose that energy goes? Are we going to just put love and light and pink dust, sprinkle dust on it and hope it's better? That was then, this is now? It doesn't work very well. If you really want to look at countries that are taking this on, who are more honestly embracing past traumas, past the individual level, look at Vietnam, look at Germany, look at other countries where there was a full reckoning. Instead of let bygones be bygones, and that was then, this is now, I wasn't born, you can't hold me responsible, and you need to let go of that, and I'm a good person, which is pretty much the narrative right now in the white community. That's why they're so scared of this topic, because it's showing an underside of what's been here a long time that has never been addressed. Look at other countries. In Germany, they really tried to own up to what happened. And there's a lot more better, cleaner dialogue there. I mean, there's still some weirdness there. Same thing in other countries. That pain, if you try, it's just like dealing with individual clients. If you try to just pretend that pain never happened, it's like a malignant thing on the whole organism. And that's what's going on. So we might as well embrace, have open conversations, hold your tongue, and try to learn from people trying to tell you something, that their life experience is radically different. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you understand pain after one conversation, because in my experience, working with people around what's known as white fragility, and every person's one saying, I'm woke. No, you're not. I can tell by just the way you're responding. You have no idea. You had one conversation with somebody one day for half an hour and you thought you were woke. It's deeply woven into the fabric of our lives, in the way things work, the way you respond, and you don't even know it because you're a fish that doesn't know it's wet in water. And that's all right. It's not your fault. But this is the only way we're going to start to get a grip on these things that keep happening. Until then, I guess people send love and light because they don't know what else to do. Now, there are people on the internet that have devoted their lives to helping solve this problem. I'm going to put links. Lisa Renee, whose work I'm quoting from right now, giving her credit. She has some useful things. I'll post that. So if you're really serious, have a look, and be patient with yourself. These are big social problems, right? And you're not going to eat a whole whale in a day, but maybe one tiny bit. And the benefit for you is you're going to feel a lot freer inside with yourself. This is spiritual growth because it's like you and the other, and I won't get into it now. You will benefit tremendously personally from embracing these shadows that are just everywhere in our culture, depending on where you live and how you grew up. You're affected. Nobody is immune. I don't care how spiritually woke you are. And in fact, some of the most spiritually awake people are the worst offenders. They're out there preaching love and light and forgiveness, and they have no idea how that's really impacting. It's making things worse. But they're just so caught up with, let's all get along, It's understandable. Okay, I've got to run. I hope this has been useful. If you like this, put a like. I don't know, I might just tear it down. It's not what I usually talk about. The reason why I'm putting this out there is until we are better at these conversations, you're going to have more everything that we don't want. And there's going to be a lot of, heartbreak. I wasn't surprised. I was disgusted. I was nauseated. I could hardly stand it. But was I shocked? Not really. These things have been happening a long time, people. It's only now that people are outraged. I didn't know. I'm a good person. So anyway, I'll catch up with you soon. Hope this was useful. Share it if you thought it was helpful. Not if you didn't. Okay? Bye.